Okay, my group is about racism, and I chose microaggressions in society because, well, I chose it because I felt like it is often overlooked, and I think it's something that like we need to cover more. You know? Okay. So, what are microaggressions? Microaggressions are common interactions which subtly or inadvertently express hostility to a marginalized group. Unlike other forms of racism, which are much more direct, microaggressions still occur even in far worse situations, such as work settings, as the people who do it sometimes intend to hide hostility through respectful conversation. In a review of 7 studies with a sample size of 2,998 people, the overall prevalence of microaggression and racial discrimination in the workplace was found to be 73.6% and 18.8% respectively, according to Solari et al. And that graph shows, the numbers. This source is valid and reliable as it is published in a peer-reviewed journal.
Laura Galavis, come to the front office. Laura Galavis, come to the front office. Your ride is waiting.
Which specializes in health and social relations, PubMD. As the multiple writers of the journal were not involved in any political or business organization which might serve to benefit from publishing the results, this piece of evidence is unbiased as well. Okay. Some examples of microaggressions are: you speak good English, which usually means like, your people cannot, your people do not usually speak good English, and I don't see color, which might disregard the troubles that some races have. And microaggressions can negatively affect the victim's health over time, states MHA National, which is also a credible source as it is a national organization which specializes in preventing mental health issues in every way possible. One example of local relevance is, in the Florida Baseball Association, just baseball in all of Florida. Even sectors such as sports are affected by microaggressions toward minority players, discouraging future athletes from succeeding. From the Florida Minority Baseball Association, microaggressions can also deter talented minority players from pursuing their baseball dreams. Whether it's facing stereotypes about their abilities or experiencing unequal treatment within the system, these subtle forms of discrimination can chip away at a player's confidence and passion for the game. Even though I'm repeating myself. MHA National is also a credible source, as it is a national organization which specializes in preventing mental health issues in every way. Oh wait, no, never mind. The Florida Minority Baseball Association is credible since they directly deal with players from different cultures and ethnicities and aim toward helping them succeed. On a more global scale, its relevance, microaggressions are prevalent in high-income countries and middle-income countries around the world. Overt racism is frowned upon in developed societies as is unprofessional, and for most of these countries they have laws against it, such as laws against apartheid and discrimination. While in low-income countries may also experience microaggressions, usually against opposing ethnic groups of the same race, as there aren't as much laws against racism and stuff like that. And so in Rwanda, for example, which this again is a local issue, the civil war, which killed a large fraction of the population in the early 90s and 2000s, began with simple remarks and microaggressions between the Hutu and Tutsi people, based on a long history of competition for resources and political power. Based on Managing Microaggressions by Monica T. Williams, they are developed from a young age as learned behaviors from observational learning. Microaggressions are deeply rooted in how kids learn about race at a young age, according to the source. And this source is also credible since it was published in a peer-reviewed and reputable journal without any apparent biases, as I can see. So my personal solution is early education. Since studies show that children developed inadvertent racial attitudes at a young age, a good solution can be to provide early education about accepting others to elementary school students. Teachers can add topics about inclusion and acceptance to class subjects every so often. Based on the 2016 study, The Effect of Early Education on Social Preferences, parenting programs from ages 3 to 4 and attending preschool alone can make children more egalitarian in the way they attack problems, which means they can be more fair towards other, groups, or more, more fair. 4 Strategies to Teach Open-Mindedness by Mary Ann Merrifield shows the effect of different forms of education has on children and their social development and recognizing different perspectives. And letting children interact with people from different areas from around the world is a great way to do so. since it allows them to see firsthand like how other people do things and the different ways in which like it's okay that other people do different things, you know. I'd say these sources are credible and unbiased, with the first being attributed to a reputable journal which specializes in the topic, while the second is from an informational text which teaches teachers to broaden their perspective building for little kids. And I'd say it's reputable because their purpose is to help children become less I want to say this, but less racial in their attitudes. The students become comfortable hearing accents and interacting with people who dress, think, or act different from what they are used to seeing in their community. And this is how such interaction promotes open-mindedness. And some limitations of this solution involve, creating additional subjects for teachers to cover. May add extra labor and costs, as there are more things to cover, so they might, lose room for other topics or stuff like math and reading. But really, there's a lot of time in the year, and I feel like I don't think it would add any extra cost because teachers, like, textbooks don't really have to cover this, and this is something that could just be like incidental. It could just be something between classmates. And some people believe preventing incidental racism is not as important as other worldly issues. And as much as I agree, I feel like we can tackle all at once because it's not something you can't just have one or the other. I believe that environmental issues are the most prominent thing that we should tackle right now. But you can tackle both because there's enough time in there and stuff like that. Yeah. And these are my sources.